Hello and welcome back to Tech Champions. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, CTO with Auditmacs in Jacksonville, Florida. As you know, we take time each week to sit down with thought leaders and subject matter experts in the field of technology. We learn about their journey and their mission and get their perspective on the latest trends in the industry. We always have amazing guests on the show. Today is no exception. Joining us from Washington, D.C. with SAP NS2 is Kyle Rice. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, Daniel, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, you bet. We talking about the hurricane. We dodged a bullet down here in Jacksonville. Did you guys get any rain out of that?
We got a little, certainly not because we're a little bit inland, so not the potential that you guys run into. But yeah, we had a good 18 hours of rain, and then it's gone.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds like you got more than we did, probably. So that was good. Yeah, we'll get the next one, I'm sure. So always fun to watch those. So let's dive in a little bit. I want you to take a few minutes and, I looked over your resume and it's pretty impressive. You're CTO, of course, at SAP NS2. You spent time as chief architect, software developer over the years. And let's talk about your majors a minute. If LinkedIn's correct, you've got double majors in physics and applied mathematics, and you got a master's thrown in there as well. So walk us through that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your journey to this point and your current mission.
Sure, thanks. So yeah, it's all kind of related. I came down. I'm from New York State originally. I came down to Washington D.C. to go to school at American University because I was an international business major, and so I did that for about 3 years. And then, to your point, I did not graduate in international business. I got a little squeamish about the whole thing because it's kind of a business major is sort of soft. And I really liked the harder sciences, and so that's why I went into the physics and the applied math route. American University is a very good international business school. It's not a renowned physics school by any means, but the location was really nice because you're down here. There's just a lot going on in the DC area, so I did some internships at NASA and kind of stuck around in the area. And then that basically just became my career. There is so much IT work around the federal government in this space that I've been involved, ever since, basically. I started out in a magnetics lab, and then I migrated over to some system integrators, always supporting the federal government and the Department of Defense. So I'm currently the CTO of SAP NS2 National Security Services. We're essentially the U.S. carve out of SAP software. SAP is a very large, third largest software company in the world, but it's German. And as a result, there are a number of customers within the federal government that can't purchase from a foreign company. So NS2 is a totally separate subsidiary, firewalled off, so that we can support those kind of customers.
Okay.
In my current role, what I get to do is, so in my current role, what I get to do that's sort of interesting is I apply commercial technologies into the government space, and then I also get to run our NS2 Labs capability. Which is where we do our partner innovations, where we do our integrations, where we work with customers in a collaborative manner.
Okay, that's great. It sounds like an interesting journey along the way. So I love the rich history there in your background. That's awesome. So Kyle, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges that IT is facing currently?
So, obviously everything right now is very pandemic related. It feels like most of us have gotten our hands around, the remote work thing. Most companies are they had all those pivots. We did lots of all hands around the football to try and solve that. But now everyone's at home, they're working fairly successfully. I think what we're encountering now, quite honestly, is almost too much opportunity, kind of the explosion of possibilities. For example, yesterday I was talking with the tax assessor from a Midwestern state, and he was explaining how they're looking to use COVID again, as most of us are, as to improve their IT and to take advantage of some efficiencies there. It says one of the things that they've done is something that should have done a long time ago, which is for essentially getting the accreditation for signs for businesses. Traditionally, it's been you come out in person, you take pictures, you do all that sort of thing. There's really no reason for that. Now it can all be done online with these guys. Take a picture, you send it in. But what they found is their IT systems were nowhere ready for that. There were some security issues. There's some angst around the middle there. So there's so many things that are forcing us to do things differently, and so many things that we should have done many years ago, but we're trying to do them like that. And so it's a bit of a challenge there, that you kind of be careful what you wish for situation.
Right. Yeah. It's been interesting. I've heard people say we kind of fast forwarded 5 years in about 3 months. So I think that's probably pretty accurate. People are moving to new solutions that they had on the radar, but weren't necessarily going to implement this year, and they kind of had to flip the switch there. And we talked a little earlier about some of the challenges to innovation in this work from home environment. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So in my NS2 Labs role, much of our job is how do we innovate for the company? How do we pull together partners? How do we pull together customers? How do we apply commercial technology? How do we apply government technology? How do we knit all these together? Traditionally, what we do is we'll put a bunch of people together, put on a whiteboard, and away you go. Obviously, you can't do that now. So I think the biggest challenge we're seeing is what I would describe maybe a lack of spontaneity around that, where you can't just say, hey, we have this problem, we need to solve it, go. As an example, we do a lot of hackathons within our labs environment, and it's just what you'd expect. It's 3 days, you put a bunch of people in a room, you just throw a bunch of food in, and you say, here's our general problem, let's see what comes out of it. Obviously, we can't do that anymore. So June, we did a virtual hackathon, and it was an interesting operation because we were still productive, but in different ways. For one thing, it took much, much longer. We couldn't do a 3-day everybody go because people have childcare, people have other issues. It's just the environment is different now. So we actually spread it out over 4 weeks. Not that everybody worked for 4 weeks. And when we counted up kind of the hours at the end, they probably put in 3 days worth of work, but it was just spread way the heck out, which was interesting. But you get different things. You just have to take a different approach to how you do it.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was in our office, and we're primarily work from home, but we can go in optionally on a volunteer basis. And I walked by one of our employees, and they said, "Oh, hey Daniel, I have a question for you." And it ended up being a unique opportunity that had revenue associated with it. And I kind of wondered after that, like, would they have called me if I was at my home office, or was it just out of convenience because they saw my face? And I actually had another conversation with a design firm out in California a few weeks ago, and they rely heavily on that collaborative innovation that you're talking about. And in fact, to the point, they actually brought everybody back in the office, and even they set up the plexiglass in between people because there was really no replacement for that interaction in the office. So it's an interesting approach.
Yeah, the one positive that I would say we get there, and it's kind of an evolution because you're right. The traditional way we all get there, the drive-bys. There's so much that comes out of that. But the one positive I have seen is as we start to move things more online, as we start to have a more deliberate approach. For example, in our hackathon situation, where it just took longer, but it was more prescribed, you get different types of people involved. Like this was far and away our most functionally diverse hackathon. We had facilities people involved. We had marketing people involved. We had people who are not traditionally involved. But because it's virtual and because it isn't, you have to give up your whole life for 3 days, you can actually pull in kind of non-traditional personnel, which is really very rich. You get lots of opinions, lots of ideas. So I think if we can figure out how to make everybody comfortable in that more virtual collaborative environment, we may actually find ourselves in a better place than we were previously.
Yeah, I like that. Well, let's change gears for a minute and talk a little bit about security. Can you talk a little bit about how security has changed, and specifically SAP security over the last few years, and how SAP NS2 is approaching those changes?
Sure.
A lot of
so
questions.
I think that no, it's a good set. I think the most obvious thing is everybody is more concerned about security. I mean, that's just, I'm not saying anything new there, obviously, but there's just so much more publicity about it, so much more concern. And so, that's pervasive across SAP. It's pervasive across all the industries. What that's meant for us, which is kind of a peculiar thing, I've been with SAP NS2 for about 6 years. And even back then, when I came over, we were really don't mean this pejoratively, but in many ways, a security-added SAP reseller. So we would take SAP products, we would put a more a higher level of security around them. We'd use U.S. persons, and we would deploy them within the community. And so it's very much a one-way relationship. That's really evolved very much over the last certainly 6 years, but it's really accelerated over the last couple of years as more of the SAP and just traditional commercial markets are more and more concerned about security. We've actually turned ourselves into a product shop. So we are creating things that then we provide back to the parent to use in the commercial space. So the things that used to be kind of niche products within the intelligence community or the Department of Defense, now if you're a commercial entity, you say, well, the CIA is using this must be good. That's a very interesting transition that's happened there. So it's much more pervasive interest. But what that means for us is we're actually in a pretty good place because since we're founded on doing those sort of secure things, we can kind of build products and migrate those up as well.
Yeah, that's great. And it's interesting. I was just in a conversation yesterday with a friend that owns a financial consulting firm downtown here. And I said, what's your number one concern right now? And I expected, something pandemic related or what have you. And he said security. And he's not even a security guy. So it's definitely top of mind for just about everybody out there. And so, I was reading your mission statement and I really enjoyed it actually. And you have one of your parts of your mission statement says, "We crush complex problems." And I thought that was a really cool way to phrase that. Can you share a real world example with us about crushing it?
Sure. And thank you for the compliments on the mission statement. We actually just redid that about a year ago. So it's just what you expect. Bring all the folks around the company, kind of collaborate through that. And so it was an experience, and I'm glad to hear that you like the results. So one of the and again, I've always worked in the DoD and IC side. When I came to SAP NS2, it was really to get more of a commercial exposure because we do kind of both things there. One of the things that happens in the commercial space is you can talk about your successes a lot more. So in terms of the problems, the real interesting problems we're crushing right now, many of them our customers don't want us to talk about. And so I will. I'll give you one that's obviously from an open discussion. This was a good one. So this is last year. So SAP runs essentially all of the back end systems for most of our military. Certainly for the Army, but the Navy as well. And back end systems in the sense of everything except for where you're the actual troops fighting on the front end. But how they get paid, how they get promoted, logistics, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we did a cloud migration from kind of on-premise solutions to the SAP NS2 cloud deployment, which is within Amazon. We essentially just repackaged that around the GovCloud piece. And we did this. The Navy is just a big organization. They've got upwards of 500 systems on there. They got 60,000 odd users doing this. We completed that. We migrated that over. What's really interesting, though, and if you've ever worked in the government space, you'll realize just how rare this actually is we did it 6 months early. And so we delivered that ahead of schedule, which is, I don't mean to disparage how our government contracting folks work, but it's just, you don't traditionally deliver early within the government space. So we were very happy about that.
Well, that's true. No, congratulations. You don't typically see things happen ahead of time in that space for sure. So that's a cool story. So, well, we're going to wrap things up, but I do have one last question we like to ask all of our guests, and that will be, what is one characteristic you think it takes to make a tech champion?
Gotcha. So, I think technical acumen is frequently overblown. There have been so many folks that I've worked with and encountered who were very good at their one particular skill set, but were just really stuck in the mud and really hard to deal with. And that's not a great recipe for success. So I think what you really need to be successful in the technical field is being open to new ideas. Whether those are ideas that conflict with the way you've done business, whether those are ideas from people you would not traditionally listen to, whether those are ideas from new technology areas. I think the key is don't get stuck doing the same thing. Don't feel that because you've always done it that way, that's going to be the right way going forward. But essentially, be open to learning new things, be open to doing new things with new people, and you will always be successful in the technical realm.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So working nose down is fantastic, but every once in a while, pick your head up and see what else is out there, right? That's great. Well, Kyle, hey, Kyle, thanks so much for being on the show. If people want to learn more about you or connect, how should they get in touch with you? LinkedIn the best way, or?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, absolutely the right way. And if you go, SAP NS2.com or NS2labs.com, either one of those, you'll get to see our nice physical facility if you go to labs, which coincidentally we opened about 6 months ago, and then we closed about 5 months ago when all this went sideways. So you can see a lovely facility that's not getting a lot of use right now. But yes,
okay.
Either one of those work.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you again, Kyle, for being on the show. And thank you to all of our viewers. And I'm your host, Daniel Beaty with Tech Champions. We'll see you next time.